All right, today we're talking about something pretty cool, NixTML. And it comes with this really bold promise, creating websites whose builds are, well, basically engineered to never break. So let's just jump right in. I want you to picture this for a second. What if you could build your website, your blog, your portfolio, whatever, and then just walk away? Come back in 5, maybe even 10 years on a totally different computer and rebuild it perfectly? We're talking bit for bit identical, 0 errors. I know, it sounds a little like science fiction, especially in the world of web dev, right? But that's exactly the promise we're going to unpack today.
Okay, so to really get why this is such a game changer, we've got to talk about the problem first, the fundamental issue with how most of us build static websites today. I like to call it the chain of fragility.
You know how it goes. It always starts out so simple, right? You've got your content, maybe some articles you wrote, a portfolio you're super proud of, and you just want to get it online for people to see. That's it.
So what do? You grab a tool to help out, right? A static site generator, an SSG. You've probably heard of them. Hugo, Jekyll, the usual suspects. And they're great. They take your simple markdown files and poof, turn them into a beautiful working website. So far, so good.
But here's where we forge that first fragile link in the chain. See, your static site generator isn't some self-contained little island. Oh no. It relies on a super specific environment to even work. We're talking a certain version of a programming language, a whole tangled web of libraries, and a bunch of other tools.
And this is the moment every single one of us has felt, that sinking feeling. A single one of those dependencies gets a breaking update. The language version you used, obsolete. And just like that, your once perfect build command just explodes. The whole chain shatters, your project is dead in the water, completely tangled up in a nightmare of dependency errors.
So what if we could build a chain that just couldn't break? Well, that requires a totally different way of thinking about software. And that brings us to the Nix philosophy.
The absolute core idea here, the thing that makes it all possible, is the reproducible build. Now, this isn't about getting something that's close enough. No way. This is a rock-solid guarantee that the output will be identical, bit for bit the same, every single time. It doesn't matter what machine you're on, or if you run it today or a decade from now.
Okay, that might sound a little abstract, so let's make it real simple. Think of it like the world's most perfect recipe for a cake. It doesn't just say add flour, it says add exactly 200 grams of King Arthur all-purpose flour from batch number 123. It doesn't just say bake it, it says bake at precisely 190 degrees Celsius for 22 minutes sharp in a preheated convection oven. You see? When every single variable is locked down, the result isn't a maybe, it's a guarantee.
And that is how we connect this whole powerful philosophy back to our website problem. So how do we apply this perfect recipe idea to building a website? Well, you guessed it. The answer is NixTML.
So yeah, NixTML is a static site generator, but it's a completely different beast. Because it's written almost entirely in Nix, it lives and breathes this philosophy. Your website stops being just a folder of files that you feed into some random tool. Instead, your entire site, we're talking content, theme, the generator itself, all of its dependencies, the whole shebang is captured in one single complete definition.
All right, let's peek at a little bit of code. Now, don't get hung up on the syntax here. That's not the point. The big idea is to see how everything is defined in one place. See that? We're calling a function, mkwebsite, and we're just telling it things. The site's name, its base URL, this is that declarative approach in action. We're just saying what we want the end result to be, and we let Nix figure out the how.
So what's really going on inside this config file? Think of it like the ultimate checklist for your website. It spells out every single input. Those are the exact ingredients for our recipe. It sets all the site metadata, tells it where to find your content, defines how to structure stuff like a blog, and pulls in the theme. Absolutely everything is spelled out, so there's zero guesswork.
Okay, so that's the why. We get it. Now let's dig into the how. What's it actually like to use this thing? Like, how do you build a theme or manage your content in a NixTML project?
When you get to theming, NixTML is actually super flexible. On one hand, you've got this Nix functional HTML approach. It's using Nix functions to build your HTML. It looks a little different, for sure, but it's incredibly structured and powerful. But if that makes your brain hurt a little, no worries. Look at the other option. You can use normal string templating, which looks a lot like what you'd see in any other site generator. You get to pick what works for you.
And this logical structure carries over to the templates themselves. It's all pretty common sense, actually. You've got a base template, which is like the main skeleton for every page. You've got a page template for your individual Markdown files, a collection template for your blog index page, things like that. It's a really well thought out system that just makes sense.
But it's not just about spitting out individual pages. NixTML gives you some really powerful tools for organizing your content, and it all boils down to two key ideas: collections and taxonomies.
So check this out. Let's say you want a blog. In your main config file, you just declare a collection called blog. You tell it, hey, the content for this is in the posts folder, and you say I want to be able to use tags with it. That's it. Super simple, super declarative.
And then what? Well, inside one of your blog posts, you just add your tags to the front matter. You know, that little metadata block at the top of the file. And here's the cool part. NixTML just knows. It sees the tags, understands the connection, and does all the heavy lifting to create your tag pages automatically. It's just seamless.
All right, so we've been down in the weeds, looking at the nuts and bolts. Let's pull back up and look at the big picture. Why does any of this actually matter?
This number right here, it tells you everything you need to know. 93.3%. That's how much of NixTML is written in Nix. This isn't just some tool that's been packaged up with Nix. This thing is built from the ground up on the core principles of reproducibility. The commitment here is deep.
And this is the real takeaway. This whole thing is about so much more than just saving you from the headache of a broken build. This is about digital preservation. It's about creating a digital artifact, your website, that's completely self-contained. It's guaranteed to be buildable 5, 10, 20 years from now. It's genuinely robust, perfectly archivable, and it can stand up to the endless churn of software updates.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question. As people who build stuff for the web, we've sort of accepted that our work has a short shelf life, that software rot is just inevitable. But a tool like NixTML really challenges that idea. It shows us that maybe there's another way. So I'll leave you with this. Could your next project be built not just for today, but to last forever?